You know, it's been a while since I did one of these videos. I grew a beard. You know, one of my favorite anime series to watch is Dragon Ball Z. It's an amazing show. But oddly enough, that show is the perfect template to follow if you want to create a long-lasting clothing brand. And I'm going to tell you why next here on Making the Brand. What's up, everybody? Rob Norman here from Planet Brooklyn Academy, and this is Making the Brand, the series where I give you a little knowledge and insight on how to start a clothing brand, and if you already have one, how to make it better. As always, please hit that like and subscribe button, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date with everything we drop when it drops. So Dragon Ball Z is this series that's been running forever. And I'm not going to go too deep into it because this is a fashion channel and not an anime channel. But I am going to tell you a little bit about it so you understand the relevance of it and why it correlates so much to fashion. So the series starts off with Dragon Ball, and the protagonist of the show name is Goku. And in Dragon Ball, he starts off as a kid. Then in Dragon Ball Z, he grows up. And basically in Dragon Ball Z, he's married, he has kids. Some of his friends are married and have kids. Then in the next iteration of it, GT, Dragon Ball GT, he's a grandfather. Now, after that, there does come Dragon Ball Super, but if you're a Dragon Ball purist, a lot of people will exclude GT. I didn't like GT either, but still, it is part of the series. And the point I'm making is that this is one of the few animated series or animated shows, period, where the actual character has grown up throughout the show. You think of someone like Bart from The Simpsons. He's been 12, 13 years old for like the last 40 years. So it's really weird that, this particular character has grown up. Now, the relevance of this is that I've been watching Dragon Ball forever. My nephew has grown up watching Dragon Ball Z, and him and I talk about it all the time. Now, my nephew has his own son now as well, and his son will grow up, and I'm pretty sure he'll end up watching Dragon Ball also. The beauty of this show is that me and my nephew, we can talk about this show. It's the one thing that brings us, even though we are generations apart, it's the one show that brings us all together, and we can talk about it and relate to it. And he goes back and watches the older shows as well. So we relate, we talk about it. Now, if you take that and put that into the perspective of fashion, when you're creating a brand, what a lot of brands do is they'll create because of the current trend that they're in. And they'll build their brand around that. And then what happens is that eventually the trend will change and their consumer will grow up and move on, and they have not adjusted for that. And what happens is their brand disappears. Let's look at what happened back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Urban streetwear, well, before streetwear, there was urban wear. And urban fashion, what happened was a lot of these brands were very huge. They got big. They were making a lot of money because their core market and their core demographic was totally into it. But then what happens is, as I said, trends come and go. And when the trend changed, most of their core demographic moved on. They went on to wear, other things because a lot of them had grown up. They were now out of high school, out of college, getting jobs, having families, and they moved on. What happens is that the next generation below them, which a lot of times are their siblings that want to be like them, follow in their footsteps. But when they follow into their footsteps to follow this particular brand, next thing you happen to see is that the market changed. It went from urban to becoming streetwear. And now what happened is a lot of those urban brands did not convert and become streetwear savvy or start to look at how they can revitalize their brands. So they stuck in the urban market, and their customers realized that they weren't catering to what they saw trending. So those consumers went to other brands. And what happened? Those urban brands died. So when you think about that, you have to realize that if you want your brand to stay around, you have to evolve. But if you follow the Dragon Ball, template, you can really get a good run out of your brand. So, case in point, if you're starting a clothing brand today and you're going with the trends of streetwear and you're doing those things, You work with that and you get your consumer following you. But you have to remember, your consumer is eventually going to evolve. So if you're going towards a younger demographic, they're going to get older, they're going to evolve. What you have to do is, once you have that core demographic customer following you for a while, what you do is you create a brand extension. This brand extension, it still has the DNA of your original brand, but now it's a little more mature. Because what you want to do is you want to take that customer from your core brand. When they transition out of it, you want them to transition into your next tier brand, which is, again, your brand extension. They're still part of the family. They've just gone on to another version of it. Now, when you get older and you start moving into these other brands that go older, what happens is that as you get older, your taste kind of settles in and you kind of don't change that much. You'll change colors, patterns, things of that nature, but you're really not going to go from baggy jeans to more fitted, clothing as you're older and then suddenly slide back into baggy jeans. You're not going to do that. Well, at least most people won't do that. But at least you know that older group is pretty much going to stay consistent. So once you get them out of your core group and they go into this next phase of their fashion evolution, you pretty much have them. They're pretty much going to stick with you because now they know that they have a brand they can trust and rely on. When you see this a lot of times with Ralph Lauren. People stick with them because they know what they're getting out of their brand. So if you do this with your core and then your next brand extension is something that's close to it and familiar, but yet has evolved, your customer will move on to them. Now, what you're going to do is when they move on, your younger demographic is going to move into this space. Now, what is key is that you have to do with your core brand, you have to be able to evolve it. You got to make sure you're changing with the times. If the trend changes, your brand has to change. Not the DNA, but what you're catering towards. Whatever the fashion trend is, you have to do that with this main brand because now the new demographic that moved in there is expecting you to stay up with things. So as long as you stay up with things, you're going to keep that group. All right. But now you have to do another brand extension, but you got to do it down. So you have to do it down to a younger market because what you want to do is you want to nurture the younger market to come into this core market. Because when this core market finishes, they're going to move up into the next one. And you keep repeating the cycle. And this is the same thing that happened in Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball started with a smaller Goku going up to an older one, to a grandfather. And all, like I said, me and my nephews can relate. If you do this with your brand, all your different brands or brand extensions will relate to each other. They will have commonality between each other because they see the DNA in each part of the iterations of the brand, but yet they all have their own individual looks. So that's what you want to do. You want to nurture a younger one, get them to move into an upper one, and then from there, go up to the final level. Now, if this doesn't work in your main brand, if something should go wrong in your main brand and you don't evolve, and they move away, your customer moves away, and that brand dies, but you still have your upper and lower brands. Because your upper brand is solidified. They are going to stay with you. And your younger one, you can still nurture and you can still save your core one. You just have to nurture your younger group. So, and there's no real loss here. You can pretty much navigate and push your customer where you want to go. And again, it's just all following the concept of what Dragon Ball did, with the character and move them up so that everybody who watches it can relate to each other. If you want to see a real world example of this, check out a brand called Aritzia. They're a Canadian-based brand. And basically, they've done exactly what I'm talking about. Under their umbrella, they have various labels that cater to all the different levels of your fashion development. So you can go from a very young age all the way up to a professional age. But the key thing here is that you stay within the brand. You grew up in the brand. And once you've trusted this brand that you've grown up with, if you have children, you'll end up just basically putting them back in it. And as I said, this cycle will just repeat itself. So it's a great template, and I'm really surprised a lot of other companies haven't really considered this or thought about this when developing their things. But as you guys are creating your brands, and if you already have one, think about this. Really consider doing this with your brand. Start thinking about how you can create a brand extension for an older consumer and a younger consumer. What will it look like? How do you make this function within your brand and within your community of your brand? Really think about this because this can be really detrimental to your brand's future. I hope this was helpful for you guys. If you have any thoughts or ideas or even comments, please leave them in the comment section below. I'll be sure to check them out and respond to that. That's it this week, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Peace.